questioning the premise about a lot of these things, I think, comes into play. And this is somewhat a bit of a comment, because you had mentioned to be peace, and you had mentioned how simply being nonviolent is nonviolence. And one of the ways in which I think we exact the worst kind of violence every day is not in Iran deals, although that is an outcome or a symptom of it, but it's believing the egocentric karmic conditioning that then causes us to engage with the voices of self-hate on a regular basis. And that it's those voices of self-hate that we don't realize are separate from our true nature, and instead our personality and the conditioning that we've been taught by parents or society or ideas that we may have about who we are based on trauma situations that we may have been in. And that it's only when we're able to recognize our own true authentic nature and our innate goodness and get rid of the self-hate that we're able to be peace and not get caught up in the day-to-day pulls of violence. So I'm wondering how you might encourage people to begin to make that shift internally, to love themselves and be self-compassionate as the very foundation of center from which all this other nonviolence and peace and activism work can come from an authentic place of love.
Can I answer? I like the questions, and I said, can I answer? But I respond. I don't know if I have an answer. That sounded really like, oh, yes. What I like to say about self-hatred is, I heard you say there's self-hatred, and then we have to love ourselves. And so I think we have a tendency to jump to trying to love ourselves. And in my practice, I met the self-hatred. I met it. I walked right to it, looked up right at it, listened to it, heard it, shout, 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 shout. Especially if you're sitting, it will shout if you're in silence. And in that, you learn a different kind of breath, a different kind of way of breathing. So a lot of time we use our breath we kind of control even that. You know, how we breathe. Okay, I'm going to work this through my breath, and that's good, but it changes, doesn't it? As you meet the hatred and you meet, even if it's external fire, that breath gets deeper and stronger and harder and just a way in which you have never breathed before. And I think that's the breath that Ty talks about, because I know he's been there and seen it and felt it. These fires that we're talking about. So self-hatred must be met and faced with ourselves and with love. So we meet it, and then sometimes we become self-loathing about it. Mm-hmm. We say, okay, here's the self-hatred, and I hate myself more. So that's not the point. The point, and you might go through that, but you still have to sit there and meet it and realize how much pain and suffering it brings you. And realize and understand where that self-hatred comes from. Understanding the consciousness, which is what Dr. King talks about. His whole teaching to me is about really understanding the nature of a consciousness of hatred. You know, and if we miss that, then we're going to miss what the teaching of love is, too, because it's combined. It's in there. So, yes.
And it happens differently for everybody.
Yes.
But can you share a little bit with us of what happened, what moment in your life, period of time, just a day when you said, you know what, I see it, and I'm done with this. I'm going to start right now and turn this tide.
That's not how it happened.
That's the purpose of the question.
So I know. That's very good. I was like, wow, that's great. I said, So what, for me, you know, I never said I was done with it. Matter of fact, I thought I was going to be buried in it, you know, and really looking and becoming intimate with the suffering. and really understanding and I understood that you must be intimate with suffering in order to engage it. Because if you're not, then you're engaging something else. And so what I realized though, is that I wanted a full life. I wanted to live a liberated life. I didn't want to live a life in which I didn't feel I belonged in the world, or other people didn't belong in the world. And so when I realized that, I think that became where the tide of self-hatred began to change. I still think it exists because we're in a consciousness of hatred. So when it comes up, I'm able to meet it. Hello there, friend. Hello there, I see you. I know you and I feel you, but you will not live center in this life. So it's no longer center stage, but it does exist. So I don't work at ridding myself of it because it takes me away from being in the love, because my energy's so busy over there trying to, scrubbing this thing that is part of life right now. And then it's really part of life when we look out and see how much hatred. When the brother said, forgive the police, I said, yeah, and forgive the black men and the black women who are being jailed. That whole forgiveness is all around everyone for forgiveness. So both forgive the police and forgive those black men who are in the corner selling a cigarette or selling weed. Forgive them,